9-bit.
Definitely. So we tend to call it a mining platform adventure because the objective in the game is mining, and the controls for it is it's sort of platformer controls, and then the escalating story makes it an adventure. So it has a defined beginning and end, and it builds the whole time until the end, where you have a climactic showdown.
Interesting. Now, I heard that you're using procedural generation. Is this true?
Well, it's sort of it's a mix, actually. We've some of the elements are randomly placed in the game, quite a bit, but then we also have handmade caves and so on that where all the elements are exactly where they're supposed to be.
So that's very interesting. So it's a combination then of procedural generation with some presets. So you won't, say, randomly run into something that you shouldn't, in short.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. We use procedural settings just to make the game more interesting, so that when you play it the next time, the items that you can find and also the locations of some places are not where you think they would be. So it's kind of interesting that way, because I think it adds very much to the replayability of the game.
I definitely agree with that, because, I mean, when you're replaying a game, you already know where everything is, you know? There are no new surprises for you. But with a system like this in place, then while you know what to expect with regards to gameplay, you're going to still have to be kind of creative in, knowing what to look for.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. That's exactly how it works.
It's a very interesting system there. So might I ask, what are some of your inspirations for this game? I like the art style a lot. It's very steampunk.
Oh, good. Thank you. Well, we're inspired by a lot of different things, but one of the major inspirations for us was that we really wanted to expand on the Steamworld universe, which we started talking about in the game called Steamworld Tower Defense that we made for the DSi back in 2011. And so the biggest inspiration was actually that we really wanted to tell the gamers or our customers more about that universe.
I see. So you've got can you tell me a bit about the universe? Forgive me, I'm not too familiar with Steamworld.
Of course. So it's a world where bear with me here. Remember that I'm Swedish, so if I screw up.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. It's like this. It's sort of a what-if scenario. If in the 19th century Charles Babbage, who was an inventor and scientist, if he had succeeded in actually creating mechanical computers to perfection, which he really wanted to make, but never really achieved, then we're thinking, what if he would have been successful? Then he might have been able to both create mechanical computers, but also to create more useful mechanical things, such as robots. And so the what-if scenario is, if he had succeeded in doing that, then humankind would have sort of created robots to take over all the menial tasks, and then in order to just be able to kick back and take it easy. And then, but what also happens then, if he would succeed in creating that, the weapons technology and so on, it would have escalated much quicker than it's done in reality. So basically what we're looking at is very advanced technology and weapons, but back in the end of the 19th century. And so humanity creates robots to do all the boring stuff, and then humanity blows itself to bits in a huge world war. And so time basically has stopped at the end of the 19th century, which means that you have this Wild West setting in this game, and the robots are still going about their business. They're doing what they used to do, which is just they're basically friendly, hardworking robots, and whatever remains of humanity has sort of gone underground, not in a resistance movement, but
for the sake of survival.
Yeah, for the sake of survival, and also because they're just lazy and unworthy.
I see. Well, that is a very interesting premise. I mean, I don't see too many steampunk post-apocalyptic robot games out there, to be honest. So, now
Right.
you say that. Okay, so it's a platformer, focuses steampunk robots, Wild West environment. Now, were there any other games in particular that inspired this?
Well, there are a lot of different mining games that are very interesting. There is something interesting, inherently interesting in mining, which means that, and I'm thinking of that, you won't know what you're supposed to find, or you won't know if you'll find it or where it will be. So it's sort of an interesting setting to start with. This also, that the robots are the good guys and the humans are the bad guys, is sort of an interesting setup. So I'd say that a lot of mining games that we've played throughout the years have been an inspiration. And it's
So definitely Minecraft.
Well, I'd say that Minecraft it's very much an inspiration in one way, because it's such an achievement, I think, to make a game like that, and it's also to be able to spread it like it's been done. It's a fantastic achievement. But also simpler arcade style games like Dig Dug, I thought that was fascinating when it came out. Just playing that back in the days on arcades was very, very intriguing.
I do actually remember Dig Dug. I've played a bit of that, yeah. Have you ever played Digger, by the way?
No, I haven't.
Okay, there's a related game called Digger. It has it's kind of similar premise to Dig Dug, although there are a couple of elements different. You should give it a shot sometime. They recently did a remake of it for PlayStation 3.
Great.
But,
I'll definitely look at that. Yeah.
Now, there's another game that comes to mind when I was thinking of... Oh, yes, Terraria. Have you tried that one?
Yeah, I've tried that, and I think it's also it's a real achievement. It's a great game, and also I think it's great that people get hooked on on that type of game, because it's very it speaks
creatively oriented.
Yeah, exactly. It speaks to people being constructive instead of destructive. It's
exactly.
It's very good, and I'm happy that those games are doing well. And I mean, we looked at Terraria and we were sort of worried that we would be competing with them, but both Terraria and Minecraft are sandbox games, and ours is very much not a sandbox game. It's
you have more of a focus, you know, like you have a specific goal that needs to be accomplished within the game.
Yeah,
whereas
exactly.
a sandbox game, you're pretty much free to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that doesn't mean that we're not interested in making a sandbox game. I mean, if this goes all right, then I think it'd be very interesting to sort of make a sandbox variety out of Steamworld. But that's a little bit off for us now. I mean, first we got to focus on getting this launch.
That's in the future.
Yep, exactly.
So now, what would you say is the most difficult part of developing your game?
Well, it's really interesting because the hardest part is not the tech or the graphics. We have that, but the hardest part is actually finding the fun factor every time we make a game. We sit with a game design document and polish it a bit, and then we decide, okay, well, let's make this game then. And then after a few months, you realize, okay, but is this really fun? Are people going to enjoy playing this? And then then you have sort of a you have a period of self-doubt, and then you really you got to chase that fun factor and find it. And I think both in this one and a game, both in Steamworld Dig and in a game that we made for iOS back in 2011 as well, called Anthill, we managed to find that. It's sort of like composing a tune and getting it into the song, you know?
Exactly, that factor that makes it worth listening to.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Now, you say that you start with design documents. Now, might I ask what your process is? Because different developers have different processes. Some like to start immediately with making a prototype of a game, whereas others tend to prefer making a game design document. Which do you think works better?
I'd say that it's... Oh, just a second, Jourdan. Just hold on, yes. Just 1 minute, 1 second.
Oh, no problem.
Jourdan, I'm really sorry to keep you waiting. It's past 6 now in Sweden in the evening, and I forgot my keys at home today. So I had to get some keys off the next last guy to leave the office. All right.
Oh, hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you clear.
Great. Sorry, where were we?
Oh, yes, design documents, yes. So yes. Do you prefer to make design documents and sketch up a game first, or do you prefer to get prototyping, and which do you think works best?
I'd say that we actually do both. First we make a game design document because we're back in 2010 we started making a game. We made a prototype first and thought that we would actually we would magically be able to turn it into a fun game, and then it didn't happen, and so we had to stop developing it, and that's why we decided, okay, from now on we'll have to make proper game design documents. But then we sort of need to have both of them in place. So we make a game design document, and then before the game design document is all finished, we start on the prototype. And I don't think we could certainly work longer on game design documents before we start developing a prototype, but at one point we would definitely have to start prototyping because otherwise we lose too much time.
I see. I definitely agree with you, because I mean, while it pays to have a game design document ready, and while it pays to have a prototype, I think having the two together really while the prototype lets you see your ideas in action, the design document actually lets you have a direction so that you can stick to something, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. It's I don't think we would work without either one of those.
Now, might I ask, do you think there is any difference between game development in Sweden and the other parts of the world? Because I mean, I know that Minecraft has definitely made a very big impression on the place, but do you think that things are different there for game developers?
That's a very interesting question. Recently, there's been sort of a big splash made by Swedish and Finnish game developers for some reason. I mean, in Sweden you have Minecraft and you have Candy Crush Saga, and that's to mention the biggest ones. And then in Finland you have Clash of Clans for iOS, obviously, and Heyday, and all of those games have had a lot of impact on gaming. I don't know. It seems to me that that we're doing all right, or that we're doing something right, at least up here. And I don't know I think maybe we have Swedes are very
Technologically
childish.
inclined. Oh, really? Well, that was
Yeah,
unexpected.
no, okay. I'd say that we're pretty childish actually. We laugh at very at kid stuff, and we're also at the same time a bit technologically advanced, I think. And so it's
The two just lend themselves to games, man.
yeah, because it it's somehow it's not frowned upon as much here to make a game. I could to give an example, I could an a musical artist will always be sort of
Accepted.
well, people tend to divide themselves into two camps. Like either you like it or you hate it. But if you make computer games in Sweden, I mean, and if you make computer games, you're sort of accepted and respected in almost by anybody. I mean, you're looked upon as a creative person who is also quite intelligent. So it's not a there's no stigma attached to developing games.
Yeah, that's
In
very.
Sweden.
That's interesting to see how it's very different over there. I know that there is a bit of a stigma over here, which is kind of odd considering. But I did not know that about Sweden. Well, thank you. I feel informed today. Now, I asked you what was the hardest part of game development. Now I have to know, what is your favorite part?
Oh, the favorite, the, my the very my very most favorite part of developing games is actually this part leading up to launch,
Oh,
when
really?
when you know that you actually have a great game. I mean, it's terrible when you're not sure if the game is gonna um, if it's good enough or not. But this time,
When people
and
are getting excited for it.
yeah, and we are extremely excited. So so it means that yeah, you're doing something wrong. You're getting a lot of positive feedback from all kinds of places, and it's such a thrill to get that. I mean, we've been working on this game since September, October last year, and now we finished up at the end by the end of June, and it means that it would be horrible if you work on something for so long and you're so dedicated to it, and you wouldn't get the recognition for it. It would be it would
It would be tragic, yes.
yeah, it would be tragic. It's sort of I feel for a lot of developers who are now making games for mobiles because the
It's such a flooded marketplace.
yeah, it's so crowded, and you sit there and you work forever. Let's say they have a daytime job, and you sit in the evening and you put all your love into this game, and you don't. And then when you release it, your mom buys it and your friends buy it, but you can't reach out. And maybe it's an excellent game, and you can't get through it. It's this is the opposite. We're getting a lot of positive attention now for this game, so it's very thrilling. Then that's one of the favorite parts. The other part is when you first think it up and someone comes up with the twists that you think, yes, that'll make an excellent game, and then when you have a playable that is, when it's good the first time, when it's beyond prototype or alpha stage or something, when it's captivating to play your own game, that's a fantastic feeling.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I mean, while I'm no game developer, I have made a couple bits of interactive fiction in Twine, and I do know the feeling of having people play your game and give you feedback on it. Even though my game definitely needs a lot of work, I have to put out a patched version sometime when, after I've rested. I definitely do agree that there's nothing like feedback. Because I got like a lot of critical feedback, but I appreciated it because people were pointing out to me your game is good, but it can be so much better if it has XYZ or ABC added to it. Now, you mentioned Dig Dug. Might I ask, what are some of your personal favorite games that you're playing in your spare time?
I hope not to disappoint you, but my biggest favorite is actually chess. I can
I'm not disappointed by any means.
I can play chess 24 hours a day. It's extremely. It's the game of games for me. It's beautiful, simple, yet it never ends. You know, it's a part of life, really, for me.
Have you seen the latest project from Misfits Attic? They're the guys who did A Virus Named Tom.
No.
Tim Keenan is currently working on a game. He's calling it Chess the Gathering. It's like his own version of chess. It combines elements from a few different games. I think you definitely find it very interesting.
I'm gonna look. I'm looking it up now. Actually, yeah. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. You'll probably have fun with that.
Thanks.
Yeah, if you get onto the guy's mailing list, he'll be able to send you like a Steam key for a prototype. I have one. I just have yet to play it. But
okay,
I mean, it's very complex, but it looks interesting.
I'll definitely look. So now I just type my email address there. Let's see that. Let's hope I get into it.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure of it. Yeah, he's giving out a lot of those.
Right, and then also obviously Sid Meier has made a slew of fantastic games. I've played a lot of Pirates, Sid Meier's Pirates this summer. I think it's great. It's so thought through. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I have yet to play that one. Would you mind describing it for the people at home?
Yeah, well, sure. It's a pirate game where it has nothing to do with what we've been doing or anything else, but it's a fantastic game. You're a pirate and you sign up for to pirate other ships in the Caribbean. There's a lot to it. It's very big. It's very nice.
I'm definitely gonna have to check that one out, Ben.
Yeah.
Now let's see here. I'm pretty sure I had a final question for you. Oh yes, might I ask, what is your? I can't believe I forgot to ask this, but what is your role on the team?
Oh, I'm the CEO. I used to be the lead programmer until I hired some decent programmers, and so I'm CEO and head of sales basically. We're a team of 11, and so it's me. We have a project manager. We have 5 programmers and 4 graphic artists, and so my role now is the one that I so lovingly described just before. I get to sit and talk to a lot of people. It's a thrill.
So you get people excited about the game, in short.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, that's an excellent role, I have to say.
Yep.
Now, might I ask, how did you get started with game development? Everybody needs to know this.
Yeah. For me, it started back in the first half of the 80s while I was in high school. We had some super crappy computers in 1983, and we had to learn a new programming language because the school system in Sweden, who had bought the computers, they had gotten a good deal on computers that didn't work, and so and with its own programming language, it was very buggy, and then we sat and programmed the simplest of games, but it was magic. It was fantastic to get that at that point, to get that sort of instant what do you call it? Instant
gratification? Is that
yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Of making your own games and all actually seeing them work. And then for the longest time after that, I didn't really develop games. I lived in Japan for 6 years, and then we instead there we made some multimedia productions in the early 90s, and that was also hilarious because that was super crappy stuff, and since it was such a hype in Japan, it managed to sell anyway. And then in 97 I founded Image and Form, and in 2002 we made our first computer game for a publisher, and it was when I started it, it wasn't the main idea actually to become a game developer. It was just something that when we got asked if we could program a game, I immediately jumped on it because it was so much fun. And then we sort of slid into game development. But I think for anyone who's interested in starting out with game development, my advice would be start doing it in your spare time and really try to get as good as possible at it. If you need to study a lot to become good, then do it. And if you don't have to study a lot, then just hack away. I mean, it's the more great games the world sees, the better, I think.
I do agree with that. That is very excellent advice, because I mean, game development, I would agree that it is becoming somewhat easier, thanks to the advent of lots of new tools and, of course, the internet, all these tutorials out there. So what would you recommend for somebody who has, say, already created a game and we're looking to get started marketing it?
I'd try to be bold and get in touch with people like myself, not me per se, but people in the game industry, and just ask them, what do you do? How do you market your game? Because I don't think that we've been doing any good marketing up until the last couple of years or so. Before that, we were just running around in the dark, and we were sort of intimidated by all these great developers, or afraid of them, or how should I put it? We were just too afraid to ask them for advice and so on. And that's my advice. Just ask the people you respect. Ask them for their opinion, because the worst thing you can get is a no, or we're too busy to talk to you. But really respectable people will take the time to just hand out a few tidbits of advice. That's the least we can do. So
fear of rejection, what you're saying is that fear of rejection is actually a lot worse than rejection.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that must be some sort of truth, or universal truth, because it is. If you don't ask, you can never get an answer.
I think that's very good advice for anybody who's indie, new to the industry, or perhaps even some people who might be industry vets and perhaps looking to get back into things, you know?
Yeah. And
now, oh yes?
No, sorry. Even for people like us who have been doing it for a while, I mean, if you have the opportunity to ask, I mean, if you really need to ask something, sometimes you're sort of now, okay, they're too cool to answer whatever I ask them, and that's the worst way to think about it. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is they're too busy to answer you, and you're not poorer if you ask and didn't get an answer.
Exactly. It only might have cost you a couple minutes of your time.
Yeah.
But let's say they do give you an answer, that could save you potentially days of frustration.
Yeah, or years of frustration.
Yes. Now, your game is coming to the 3DS. What has it been like working with Nintendo?
It's been. That sort of ties in with the thing that we just talked about. When we released the previous game in 2011, we were just amazed when we got an email from Nintendo that they would have the time to answer an email from us. These days, we're very much more on their level. At that time, we felt that we were so small and they were so huge. We've met them on a number of occasions, and they're just super friendly people, and they go the extra mile. They do. We rarely wait for more than 10-15 minutes to get an answer back from Nintendo, and that's an amazing partner to have. I mean, it's very their submission process and so on is daunting, so it's difficult, and I think that could deter a few developers from developing for Nintendo. But once you get into that, you notice that they're they're very happy to help you. And so I really want to encourage all indie developers to look at the Nintendo platforms, because the people there are just marvelous.
Well, that is very good to know. I was not aware of Nintendo's process for indies. So you say it's difficult to submit your game, but once it's submitted and Nintendo's approved it, then you're golden.
Well, a couple of things are difficult. First, to become a Nintendo developer, there's a lot of paperwork. Well, you don't do it on paper, but there's a lot of forms to be filled in, and then you gotta have your stuff in order. It's not like they're gonna stop you or hate you, but it's a process. It's a daunting process. And then when you submit your game, you have to be very accurate in what you do. You can't submit a game that contains bugs or too many bugs, and the forms you need to fill out are also daunting. There's a lot of stuff that to be filled out. It's very much easier to submit to Apple, for example, but you have, on the Nintendo side, you have a difficult process, but you have a lot of people that are very willing to help you. On the Apple side, it's simple to submit, but on the other hand, you're not getting very much help from Apple.
I see. So once you've submitted to Nintendo, then you're going to expect a lot of support from them.
Yeah, you can expect that. They're happy to give you the support. I mean, because it can be quite difficult. Some of the stuff that you need to do. I mean, when you submit, for example, now our game is going out. It's coming out in Europe and Australia and America. The submission process could be exactly the same between Europe and America, but it's not. It's they have different setups, and it's one of those things that if you're one or two guys making a game, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that could be a bit difficult. Now, are there any plans to submit to the other large gaming company that could take a bit of time, Steam? Are there any plans to take this game multi-platform?
Yeah, well, first we have to have a critical success with Steamworld Dig, and I'm going to be so brazen, so I think it will be a critical success. Then we need to have a commercial success with it, and then we can start porting it pretty much immediately. It'll be very much fun to see Steamworld Dig on other consoles, but also, for example, on Steam, because the controls that you use in the game, it could quite easily translate into a keyboard setup.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Most 3DS games, in my experience, besides the touchscreen, which you probably have to change to mouse, make a few changes with regard to speed and such. Most of the games could easily make their way to PC.
Yeah. And
now,
sorry, I was just going to say, and also Steamworld Dig, we've sort of we've taken pains to let the player play without the touch screen, meaning that you use the D-pad and the buttons pretty much throughout the game, so you don't have to interrupt the gaming experience too much. So I think it'll.
Okay, that is a good thing.
Yeah, I think it would actually translate into the keyboard quite easily.
Because for the majority of platformers, while it is possible to use the touchscreen for some, I do find that it can be quite difficult at times, especially when you need to do something quickly.
Yeah, right.
Alright, well, very good. Looks like you've made some very good design decisions with your game. So, when's it coming out?
Well, we're getting very close, Jourdan. It's still the 5th here, and it's coming out in Europe on the 7th in the evening, and in the US on the 8th.
Excellent. So August 7th for Europe, August 8th for the United States in the year 2013.
Yep.
Oh, very nice. Now, oh, yes. Now I have one final question for you.
Hmm?
How do you pronounce your last name?
Okay, get ready. So it's Sigurgeirsson.
Sigurgeirsson.
That's right.
Excellent. So Brjann Sigurgeirsson.
Yep.
I'm going to have to work on my Swedish. It's been very nice talking with you, Mr. Sigurgeirsson. I hope your game has a lot of success, and I cannot wait to review it.
Thank you very much, Jourdan, and it's been a pleasure.
Excellent. Have a lovely evening.
You too. Bye-bye.